Hey everybody, it's David Pingree. Welcome to Angels Stadium at Anaheim for the 2018 Supercross Series kickoff. And one of my favorite things about the opening round is the race bikes, factory bikes, the trick parts, the stuff you can't buy, the stuff you can't afford, and just the cool little machine bits that these teams come up with. It's always cool to see the graphics and the looks and see if we can talk to the mechanics a little bit about different data acquisition pieces, different parts and pieces, why they're running it, those problems they're trying to solve. There's a lot of love and time and work that goes into these things. They're works of art. And so before they get a whole bunch of rocks and dirt thrown at them, we want to cruise through the pits, check them out, get it up close, and see if we can give you guys a nice view of all these works trick bits. So let's go around and check them out. All right, we're here in the Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki pits, box stand today for press day. But this is Adam Cianciarulo's race bike. They just did press day, so it's a little dirty, but some really cool parts and pieces on here. These guys are sticking with the Showa spring fork this year, not the new stuff that you see on the Suzuki. This does give them an option to add air if they need that, but it's a spring fork. All the anodized coatings and stuff that Pro Circuit does. And again, A60 rims. They got their custom wheels. This is all factory stuff. Some neat stuff over here too. So Pro Circuit builds these radiators a little bit bigger, a little longer, more volume. They've got this really cool titanium catch can that they build. I think they sell that as well. And then when you get down here, you can see that they run an oil cooler through this. So this is a great way to keep engine temperatures down, especially in motocross, longer motos, keeps the motor temp down, lets it run longer. That's something that's really custom to them. Also, these engine hangers, it's a stock hanger, but they polish them and drill them to save weight, and they say that by drilling them, it also changes the characteristic of the bike, gives it a little more flex, and all the guys seem to like that. These cases are all factory Kawasaki, KHI, Kawasaki Heavy Industries. Very cool. And then inside, the tranny is actually all a works unit that they buy from a company in England. And it's a proprietary design for Pro Circuit Kawasaki. So pretty cool. Pro Circuit manufactures these pegs, which will make you bleed if you touch them, super sharp. And they make a lot of parts and pieces for these bikes actually. The link arm, obviously the exhaust. You come back here, they've got some carbon fiber stuff again. Stock rear brake, which I thought was interesting, but they said it's plenty strong, no need to do anything beefier. And then when you get around to this side, you get some more cool parts and pieces. So Pro Circuit makes the stator cover here. You can actually buy that part. Again, you see the hanger. Got some more carbon down here. But if you look at this air boot, they used to take the 450 air boot and just plug it onto this, and it gave them the extra volume they needed. Now they're actually making boots, different boots for different types of track. There's an indoor and outdoor. I think they have just a lot of different options for them. And they sell a version of this as well. So if that's something you're looking for, you can check that out. But this is really a key component into making this thing breathe the way it needs to. And then if you get up top, they're a Renthal sponsored team. And you can see right here, they've got a connection for collecting information. So there's a GPS involved in that. You know, we asked them a little bit about what that does. They can find out what RPMs the rider is at, what gear he is in any place on the track with the GPS. So it just gives them information if he's over revving in a certain place, if he caught neutral, if he's too low of a gear, too high of a gear, where his throttle position is. It just gives them a lot of feedback and data. I don't know how you go through some of that, but that's what they're trying to collect, and you'll see a lot of teams doing that. All right, we're back in the Auto Trader Yoshimura Suzuki tent here, the JGR boys, and this is the #1 at Justin Hill. So some pretty cool things on here, and we'll get around to it. Again, I've seen a lot of this year. This is new, this textured levers. And again, I just think it's for better grip, gives you a little feel. As we work around, you can see this coating on the suspension. Again, the coatings just sort of reduce friction, allow things to slide a little easier. That's why, this is kind of standard, the Ti-nitrite, but this black is kind of getting around more and more. Front hub, this is all Suzuki Motor Company, all factory Japan. Same with the front disc guard and this skid plate here. That's all factory Japan. And I love these washers that are all drilled out. You can buy that. A lot of companies use Mettech or different titanium companies, but those are really cool looking pieces. This case, again, this is all just anodized. This is stock components. Works tranny stuff inside. There's a bung for data acquisition, again, for fuel mapping and things like that. Billet titanium foot pegs, tie pedal here. The brake snake, this kind of comes and goes. You see it. We used to run these in my day. That's if this thing was to grab a tough block or whatever and get yanked. In theory, this is going to hold it and keep it from bending all the way around so the rider can finish the race. Some guys use them, some guys don't. Again, the tie hub. And it's crazy that all the teams really run this same tire, MX3S. Sand, I don't care if it's really sandy, muddy, hard pack, they all run the same exact tire. Acropovic chain block in the back here. And you get to some pretty cool stuff as we get to this part of the motor. You know, obviously a Hinson cover here, JGR doing all their in-house motor stuff. They also add a second injector here. And so the get ignition and parts and pieces, but this just protects this second injector. That's been a really big gain for them. They did the same thing last year on these bikes, and it works really well. You can see the ports up here on top of the air boot. And then you'll start to notice too, they've got this thing drilled out like crazy. 2 air holes here. You get to the top, you see this weird looking seat, the Guts Racing seat, but these vents on the back are for increased airflow. Kind of looks like it's got a little tail, but they're just trying to get more air in, because as you push more fuel, you need more air. And then you see up top the get ignition switches here, but this little clip, they leave this on here just to remind them to turn on the data acquisition piece, which is back in the airbox. So, you know, nice little reminder. And then you can see here all of their clip for their ignition and acquisition stuff right here up front. And then notice the polish on the frame, man. And that's a lot of love, a lot of work from these mechanics. That stuff doesn't come easy, getting it looking like that. Beautiful bikes. All right, this is the GEICO Honda factory connection bike of Christian Criag. Christian's going to be a front runner all this season on the West Coast. And these bikes are really a spin-off from Honda. This is Honda's factory race team, so you're going to see a lot of similar parts from this bike to the factory Honda parts. When you get down, again, you're going to see same calipers, the Nissan calipers all polished up. They're running a Moto Stuff rotor with their caliper mount. That's really good products. Used to be CRF stuff, now they've gone into making stuff for all kind of different bikes, so really cool products. We use that on a lot of our bike builds. He's with the Showa suspension here. Looks like that's what the whole team's gone with. Obviously Factory Connection doing their stuff. That's their specialty, that's what they do. Pairing that up with the factory Honda clamps. These guys running Pro Taper bars, the arc levers you'll see again. And the guys like that because it's got, this has a really nice wide wheel here so they can reach up and adjust the clutch quick if they need to. And again, he can make these levers in any sort of diameter, shape, length, anything you want. Very custom stuff, so the teams really like that. And again, you're gonna see a lot of the Asterisk carbon from the tank cover here. They're running Renegade fuel. It's a little different, something you don't see, but most teams running VP. These guys going with Renegade. It allows them to actually give as a smaller company, they can build more custom blends if they need something a little different in the fuel. Renegade's able to do that for them. When you drop down, again, you're gonna notice on these new Hondas, dual exhaust coming out of here. So that's a little different. All of this stuff, factory Honda stuff. These guys will usually be running Works trannies again. And a lot of motor work into this. This bike, initially was a little down on horsepower, and these guys have worked really hard to get this thing to where it is now, and I'm anxious to see how it kind of stacks up. Guys say they love it, but what else are they gonna say, right? Really cool parts and pieces here, billet titanium pegs. If you see that Showa shock back there. As we work around, again, these guys are Yoshimura team, so they're running the Yosh carbon exhaust. Factory Honda hubs again, all these titanium bits and pieces. Really cool axle and lug nut there. All titanium, saves a lot of weight. And then Yoshimura is also making a lot of little bits and pieces like this little brake piece here. Titanium parts and pieces here, Works cases. And some of these teams, you'll see this bung like this. This is actually capped, so they're not collecting data as he's riding now, but this allows them to go back to a dyno, plug into this, and then do fuel mapping and make changes on a dyno, which is kind of where they do most of it anyway. All the stuff you're gonna see at the track is just sort of collecting data to make sure that nothing's changed. That's why you only see it at the opening few rounds, and then you'll see a lot of that data acquisition equipment kind of come off, because it does add weight, obviously, and they're trying not to do that. Beautiful bike. Got the GEICO Lizard giving you the thumbs up, or Gecko, whatever. These bikes are beautiful. These guys are going to have a good season. All right, we found Troy Lee Designs a KTM Red Bull bike here of Alex Martin. And these things are, again, these guys work very closely with KTM, so you're gonna see a lot of factory KTM parts and pieces on here, but Troy definitely puts his look and their own flair on it. You're gonna see the Brembo carbon covers here. These guys all run a really cool custom bar mounts, different heights, different forward and back. Obviously for a guy like Alex, he's gonna probably run them lower and further back than most guys. These Brembo master cylinders and stuff for the hydraulic clutch, really, really high end. And they can change, they've got different ports in there where they can change the feel of that as well. That was something we didn't have back in the day of early KTM days when it was either on or off. You didn't have any feel. That was the downside to having the hydraulic clutch. And that's all gone away now. They've got these things working really well. So the large diameter cone valve WP forks, big Brembo master cylinders and calipers on here. These things are awesome. And even though just you look at the lug on the fork, everything is really machined precisely, cut out for weight savings. Turbis front disc guard. These things are really strong as well. Turbis does a great job with that. DID rims, kite hubs. As you get back on the motor, you see a lot of really cool parts and pieces too. So these carbon engine hangers, again, we've talked about how changing this will really change the feel and character of the bike. These guys have gone with a carbon one. That's gonna obviously flex more than something that's a metal. And so, I don't know exactly how it changes it, but it's changing the feel to something they like. And again, they can drill this, change this, manufacture it differently and get a different feel. Really cool little covers here. I mean, this stuff is just trick. And then these are anodized again. Different components in the tranny, but stock transmission ratios on a lot of these bikes. And then right here, this is a Troll Special. That's a whole lot of titanium to make pegs that tall. This is my style right here. I would probably fit real nice on this bike. Big tall pegs. They can set these things up, down, back, forward, however you want. And they've got some holes drilled with a fabric behind that's real thin. It'll still breathe, but it keeps out any kind of dust and dirt. And then again, you got your titanium axles and blocks in the back with your kite hubs. And the really, really pretty Brembo calipers back here. And it's interesting, you know, we talked about on some of the bikes, like the Marvin Musquin's bike, how short that canister was here on the back. This is super long, but skinnier, but just different. The 250, because it's higher revving, makes more noise. It's harder for these guys to pass sound. A lot of times you'll see them throwing these cans in a cooler or in the fridge prior to going up to tech. Cooling it down will actually absorb more sound. So, especially in the early days of sound testing, guys were doing anything and everything to pass. The FMF boys have got it pretty figured out now. And again, you look here, you'll see this oddly shaped power bomb. They're just creating more volume. The more space they can make in here, the more sound they can absorb without losing horsepower. So a pretty cool deal. I don't know if that's gonna make its way to production, but it's pretty neat. And all this stuff, again, anodized for durability. Allows them to clean it easier when they pull these apart every week. Hinson making these side covers. And custom gas caps on these things. And the engines are all factory KTM inside. These guys obviously have WP suspension services helping them with dialing these things in. All right, we found Aaron Plessinger's race bike over here in the Star Yamaha tent, and some really cool stuff on these things as well. They're running KYB suspension, obviously the black anodized stuff. And this is a part I always like. Lightspeed makes this. They make really cool carbon fiber stuff, and it just clamps onto the existing bolts, but it protects this fork lug. And sometimes if you're coming through a tight, sticky rut, that lug can actually hang you up and jerk your wheel, and this thing will allow it to kind of slide because it covers the complete underside. So really cool part there. Lightspeed does all their carbon. Stuff fits really well, looks really cool. And these guys are running neck and triple clamps up here, neck and bars. And this is just a wrap. We were wondering if this was actually carbon or something like that. It's just a sticker wrap that goes over it, but it's kind of a cool idea. You don't see a lot of that. And again, we see these banjo bolts all tied up so that they don't come loose. And if you see, he's got it pulled taut to that side so that it actually can't move to the left. And again, you just don't want to be losing brakes mid-race. And these guys are running the Recluse torque drive clutch. A lot of teams going with the Recluse stuff now. They have not only the automatic clutch, but this manual torque drive is Very well made, very strong. And when you're putting more horsepower into a motor, it's important to have stiffer springs and a clutch that can handle that extra power. Raptor foot pegs, check this hole out. Just lets mud clear through there. So if these guys are in sticky, muddy conditions, it doesn't pack up and fill with mud. Stuff will just drop right at the bottom. It's a really cool design. And this foot peg bracket as well, pretty neat. And then they run some GYTR parts here. You can see there, all this titanium stuff, banjo nuts tied together. Carbon in the back. And I love the color of this kite hub. We don't know what it's called. We were calling it the champagne color. Goes well with the blue rims, which I really like. And again, you see more Lightspeed carbon fiber down here in the chain block. And then the GYTR cover on the side over here. This stuff's just stronger. It sticks a little bit closer into the bike, doesn't hang out as far, so it's not as susceptible to getting hit with a rock. And then they do some different things down here. If you can see this, the chain roller is actually drilled out. So they say it's to save weight, but that's really not a ton of weight. Sometimes by doing that, you can change the characteristic of this wheel where it'll actually flex a little bit. And as the chain pushes down on that tight, it'll sort of change the feel of the suspension as you get deep into the stroke. I know the Honda used to play with that a lot on different bikes, so maybe it's something those guys are toying with. And then as you get up front again, the big carbon fiber Lightspeed skid plate. They're running, again, like the factory Yamaha team, the stock caliper, but with a steel braided line to give it a real good, strong feel. And then if you look up here on his brake lever, this is something that's kind of an old school trick as well. You see this hole drilled right here. Kind of tough to see, but that's just so that if he falls, the lever will break right here at this weak point where there's a hole, and he'll still have a little bit of clutch to finish the race.